It's amazing what one company do, which is why I do what I do. I want to help people change the world.
Cattle Call Podcast. This is the third, I think it's the third episode now. I'm Isaac Weston. I'm here with Mitch Anderson. I always call him Money Mitch because he's my financial advisor. Called him Money Mitch for the last 7-8 years. Keep things straight. And I'm just honored to have him on. It's I guess it's the first interview I've done in the Nashville area. So I'm excited to be here. Again, Mitch Anderson. Mitch, you can say hello.
Awesome. Hello. Glad to be here.
How you
Awesome.
doing? You happy?
Doing good. Doing great.
Great.
Thriving despite the chaos.
So you work in finance, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Financial planner, financial advisor. We also do like 15 company 401k plans. So, which we love because it gives us a chance to help hundreds of people at one time. So it's fun. Yeah. And
did you start eFinancial Alliance?
I did. Yeah. I'm a midlife crisis guy. So, I was in corporate finance for probably 15 years or so, 14 years, I guess. Travel the world, helping companies be successful financially. But I always loved it when people would come in my office and go, "Hey, you're the money guy, right?
Money
You're
Mitch.
the finance guy. You know, what is a stock option? What do I do with a 401k? I don't even know what a 401k is. Should I do it? You know, I loved that. And so one day I was going to just quit my job and be a financial advisor. And I told a really wise mentor of mine, I said, "Hey, will you have coffee with me? I got this idea." He said, "Sure." We met, leads this big company, not a financial firm, but he was gracious enough to give me a few minutes. I said, "Hey, I want to be a financial advisor. I'm just going to quit my job and do that." And he said, "Hold on a second. Do not just quit your," he said, "We've got enough financial advisors. The last thing this world needs is just another guy going to try to do that, right?"
Right.
He said, "Try to get your CFP, Certified Financial Planner. It'll tell you if you're serious. You'll learn a lot, and most advisors don't have it because they either can't pass the test or don't want to take the time." And those were probably the wisest words I ever got.
And who is that mentor?
His name is Carl Roberts, and shout out to Carl if he ever listens to this. I'm gonna let him know.
Man. Yeah.
He's an awesome guy. But he kind of steered me in that direction. I had to make an investment. Went to Belmont for a year. Came home, told my wife. I was like, "Hey, good news and bad news." She said, "Well, what's the bad news?" I said, "The bad news is we're going to take a 6-figure pay cut." And we had a brand new baby. My son had just been born. And she said, "Okay, well, what's the good news?" And we had talked about it some, of course, but she said, "What's the good news?" I said, "Well, there's no Corvette, no new girlfriend. We're in this together." And but it's been awesome. Yeah, it could be worse, but she was great, and it's been awesome.
Okay, so you have a wife and a son. How many kids do you have total?
Got 3. Got a sophomore in college in L.A. Just dropped her off at USC, which is kind of crazy right now, that environment. And we've got a sophomore at Centennial High School in Franklin. And we've got a 6th grader.
And a 6th grader.
Son, yeah.
And what school's the 6th grader at? Is it mom's school or no?
No, he's at CPA.
Okay, gotcha.
Christ Presbyterian Academy. So we did that for a variety of reasons. It's a great school, but we were already there. But it's been great during this time because he's been able to get a lot of support. So it's been good.
So a quick intro here. I met Mitch through my mom. So my mom's a teacher at a school in Franklin, and she did a career day, if I remember right. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's right.
And did a career day, brought in different people. I think she had like a detective or a police officer or something like that. A pilot, just a handful of people throughout the day. And then your daughter, Avery, the one in LA now, was in her class. And I don't know if she recommended or you reached out or mom reached out to you. I don't know how it all worked, but at some point you came in the class, struck a chord with my mom. My mom was like, "All right, my son's," I'm in high school at the time. He was like, "Hey, he needs to start, establishing some good financial habits now." And this guy came in. I really like this guy. He's a Christian. He's trustworthy. He did a very good presentation that people took to him. The least I can do is set my son up with him. And so I came up and met you then a little while later and got a nice Roth IRA.
Yeah.
So, and then that's how I met Mitch, and then haven't seen him since around that time. So it's been a good 7-8 years, but that's how I know him. And then that's the daughter in LA now.
Yeah.
She was fifth grade at the time.
5th grade. And by the way, your mom's one of her all-time favorite teachers still.
No kidding.
She talks about Miss Weston.
I'll have to let her know. She probably won't listen to the podcast, so I'll have to tell her that.
Just tell her that. Yeah. No, she is. She loved Miss Weston. And you know what? That's actually a funny story. That's exactly what happened. I came, and so what happened that day was there was a pilot, like a UPS driver and like an engineer, like you said, who builds bridges, designs these cool bridges, right? And then there was me. And I was like, how am I going to get these kids interested in what I do? You know, everybody else had these easy to visualize kind of neat job, you know. So I had 4 cups, styrofoam cups, those 4 cups right there that are sitting in my office.
Cool.
And they say spend, save, give, and invest. And I asked the kids, I was like, how, you know, I gave them $21 bills. I said, how would you divide these up in these buckets? And do you know what they did? 5 in each.
Okay.
$5 in the give, $5 in the save, $5 in the spend, $5 in the invest. And I said, if you guys will do that really in life, you will all be wealthy if you start right now. And all it takes is $12 a week starting in 5th grade. They were in 5th grade to have $1 million when they're 65. $12 a week. And so, anyway, that's one of the most successful presentations I ever did was 4 styrofoam cups. After that, I got a call from the pilot and the engineer and your mom. You know, it was awesome because I loved helping you, and you're off to a great start in life, or you know, even in high school. That was phenomenal. So it's good. It was fun.
Well, I didn't know about the cups. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I should have been in that class too. Probably would have helped me out a little bit.
Well, it just goes to show you can have all these financial theories, but you know, it's hard to beat basics like, you know, styrofoam cups with magic marker written on them. And,
that's right, man. Whatever works.
That's right.
You know your market. Okay, so how'd you and your wife meet?
You know, we met in college at UT.
Okay.
And she, it was kind of funny. My little brother, I was in a fraternity, my little brother and her went to school together. They were same age, went to elementary school all the way up. And we had lived about 45 miles apart. We didn't know each other till we went there. And then I'm a big sports fan, so I went to every football game, every basketball game. Well, she was a cheerleader. So I tell people I stalked her for a year before we ever went out. You know, I went to every sports fan. I would have gone anyway.
You're right. Now you had more of a reason.
I got more of a reason. But so just we ended up kind of seeing each other at a lot of events. And actually had a girlfriend at the time and ended it with her and started asked my wife to go out. And
what's your wife's name?
Her name is Kalia. Keleah.
Kalia. Okay. Cool, man.
Yeah. It's actually a Hawaiian flower.
Is she Hawaiian? Or?
No, she's not. Her mom just thought it was a cool name. And we went to Hawaii one year on vacation, and we were on this tour, like hiking tour of Hawaii. And we knew that Kalia was a Hawaiian flower. And so they were, you know, what's your name? We're going around, and my wife goes, Kalia, and the tour guide starts to smile. And we said, oh, yeah, it's a Hawaiian flower, right? And he just starts laughing. And apparently some people smoke it. I don't know. Something like that, you know. And so anyway.
Like, we love Kalia.
Yeah, we love Kalias. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
That's funny. Okay. Now, did you go to UT for finance or anything finance oriented?
Yeah, well, my undergraduate degree's in biomedical engineering. So, yeah, I wanted to design knee joints and stuff like that. And my senior project was we designed an artificial fallopian tube made out of Dacron, which...
What is that?
It's, you know, at the time, this was, you know, 25, 30 years ago, right? That was cutting edge. But the problem I had, Isaac, and I went to work for Baxter Healthcare, actually, designing like saline bags.
Okay.
But the issue is I can't stand blood very well, and a lot of work was
probably a big part of it.
Yeah, that was, you know, was going in emergency rooms, figuring out how the knee joints responding to things and all that. So to do what I really wanted, I was going to have to deal with the blood probably, and so when I was working for Baxter Healthcare, I was doing a lot of cost estimates on the new machinery to make these saline bags, and I love the finance part. I'm an emergency guy anyway, and I said, you know, I'll just go get my MBA in finance. And so that's how I kind of ended up in the financial world. And then I went to work for FedEx in Memphis.
Oh, okay. Right on. Right
out of school. And you know, I'm glad, Isaac, I didn't work for them later in my career because I probably would have never left.
Really?
They're a great company. You know, I mean, it's been 20 years, but when I was there, I mean, no better company to work for. Was helping them buy airplanes. That was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
It was a fun job.
Yeah, they own like half the city.
Yeah.
It feels like we were down there the other day, this last weekend, driving to church, and you pass their big world headquarters.
Yeah.
And you think about like, hey, they have the stadium, they have the other stadium, they kind of have this stadium, they have half the University of Memphis campus, they have all these other buildings. Like they run the city. And apparently, if I remember right on this as well, between like 10:30 p.m. and 4:30 a.m., Memphis becomes the busiest airport in the world because they're sending out like 2 planes every 10 seconds or something unreal like that. All the FedEx planes that are coming out.
Yeah.
So I guess I never realized how massive FedEx was till I, had moved down to Memphis and saw that they just have their name on everything in the city.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think FedEx gets enough credit for it. They invented an industry, right? They invented the overnight delivery industry that now we all use with Amazon.
Right.
Right? I mean, really,
Right, yeah.
UPS and FedEx are still kind of the only people that really can deliver overnight. And so it's amazing what one company do, which is why I do what I do. I want to help people change the world. FedEx changed the world. Think of what they've done for the city of Memphis, but not even that, all over the globe. How many medicines get delivered next day? How many organs transplant?
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing. And Fred Smith, who founded the company, I think his humility, but yet his innovation, but staying humble and staying, because if you're not humble, you're not going to respond to new ideas as quickly because you think you're right, right? And he was, I got to meet him several times, and it's great place to start your career.
So are you from Tennessee originally, or?
From Tennessee, from West Tennessee, farming community. And my dad ran an agricultural supply store, basically supplying the farmers with everything they needed.
Cool.
So very humble, very poor area, and but it was a great place to grow up, really. Everyone knew everyone in the town. And not a lot of people left. So when I went to college, I mean, that was a big deal for a lot of families to see, that only a handful of kids really went away to college. A lot of kids went to college, but it was usually 15, 20 minutes away or whatever. And but it was a great place to grow up. I was always in cotton fields
Really?
My first job was picking tomatoes.
Oh, man.
Which was in 98-degree heat. It was a really humbling experience.
Oh, yeah.
And incentivized me to want to go to college.
It makes me work in an office, man. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll never complain about air conditioning. So.
Yeah, no kidding. So growing up in a community like that, in a home like that, did that have any influence on you wanting to work in finance or have different money management in the future, or at least help people overcome situations like that, or what? Yeah,
I mean, I know that it did at some level because there was just the kind of poverty we saw, in the 80s in a small town in West Tennessee was, in the area we live in now, we really don't even see it here. Like you would have to drive around to find it, and there it was common. So there was part of it. Really, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing today was just looking around and seeing what a need there is. And because there's a few simple solutions that can lead to enormous wealth. And why does wealth matter to me? It's because those are resources to help people in the world, right?
Sure.
What if every billionaire woke up today and their sole work was figuring out how to help as many people as possible, right?
Right.
And so creating wealth is unlimited. Why not create more of it to use those tools? The other reason is my wife and I were married for 5 years. We both worked great jobs, and we have absolutely not a single penny to show for those 5 years.
Really? Yeah.
We had a good time.
Yeah.
Good memories.
Yeah.
And I thought, a lot of people think, well, you probably have made all the right decisions. That's why you're doing this. And I'm like, actually, I made a ton of wrong decisions, and that's why I'm doing this, because I looked and go, you know what? If I had just invested 15% of our incomes, if we had just done that for those 5 years, we calculated today it would be around $600,000.
Just from the 15%.
Just from the 15% in those 5 years.
Wow.
So instead of $600,000, we've got zero from those 5 years.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have missed it, Isaac. We were having we were going on cruises. We worked hard, but we weren't buying cars, and we were and I love to do that kind of stuff. It's just that if that 15% was gone before I ever saw it,
right,
and growing, because there's a difference between saving and investing, and so that's what I do. Another reason why I do what I do, right? So,
gotcha. And then what does your wife do? Does she have a finance background at all, or?
No, she is extremely talented in a lot of areas, but she doesn't love finance. But she owns a yoga studio.
There we go.
And it's a Christian yoga studio. And so many people have come to faith through that,
Really?
and get healing through that ministry. She's doing a lot of online stuff now, obviously.
Sure.
But that's what she does. So tremendously impactful, and it's been fun to see.
Okay, so I had no idea about that. I will have to talk more about that later with the healing stuff. So how has your work changed at all through COVID, or at least how has your outlook on your work changed since all the COVID-19 stuff hit?
Yeah. That's a great question. For one thing, it's a reminder that in stressful times, it's hard for people to make great decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so having people around that are not emotional about your current situation, for all of us,
Right.
is extremely helpful. So I've been humbled and honored to do this during it. Has it been stressful? Terribly, right? We have clients that watched their jobs or their business. We got one client who has 5 restaurants.
Oh man,
They all got closed.
Yeah.
I mean, you take that call from a client and say, hey, what do you think about this situation? I'm closing all 5 restaurants. So, it's just an interesting time to be doing what we do, but you can't talk about someone's money without talking about their heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how are they approaching life, and what's in their heart as they relate, what's their relationship with their money has
Right.
really come to the forefront here. And also just persistence, not panicking, staying the course. I mean, markets have recovered amazingly well. We had confidence that markets would eventually recover.
Right.
They've been more resilient than we thought. Now, however, if you peel below the surface, the big companies have done really, really well, but the small companies, not only just in the stock market, there's over 3,400 listings in the U.S. stock markets. The vast majority, over 3,000 of those, are significantly down.
Really.
But the handful of the big players, Amazon's, Apple's, they've done really, really well during this time as people kind of consolidate to those.
Sure.
We're optimistic that that'll recover to the rest of the economy. We hope it does. But I've been humbled to just help clients get more of a sense of peace during this.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some strategies that plan for, hey, if this happens, if we get a huge calamity, here's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something simple as staying on our task and rebalancing a portfolio, which means buying more of what's gone down if we still believe that it will cover. That's worked out great. We met with a client yesterday. They're up significantly since COVID happened. They couldn't believe it. And it was just simple as like not any genius moves. It was just following this plan.
Okay.
Right? So it's sort of like if a flood happens, let's say you're camping or whatever. If a flood happens, we're going to move the tent. We're gonna have stakes that are easy to move. We're gonna, it's just planning a little bit. You move, and so I don't want to sound like we have all the answers. We don't. In the middle of it, we didn't know how long it was going to last or whatever. But we knew that panicking and making wholesale changes to plans that had been in place for years wasn't probably the answer. Making adjustments, looking at the situation, and calmly taking new steps. That's prudent.
Yeah.
And so it's been a learning time for all of us. And but there's still more to do. There's a lot of uncertainty ahead.
I mean, do you think we're coming out of it now? Like from what it has been to where we're at now, does it look like we're coming out of it, or is it still ambiguous?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely coming out of it. I'm optimistic the worst is behind us from what we call asset pricing, like how much is your portfolio worth? How much are these companies that we all own and bonds that we own and various instruments? I think that's behind us without any further kind of calamities. But I do think it's going to be, a lot longer in terms of a full recovery for everyone, whether that means the guy that was a restaurant manager or the company that's, the cruise line companies or whatever. It's going to be a while. But we believe in the global economy. We believe in the U.S. economy. We'll believe that they can innovate and change. We're already seeing companies innovate and reinvent themselves. You look at some of the great companies over the years, they've innovated, the ones that are still around. Look at Microsoft, right? Microsoft's done well. they were, in 1990, all their revenues came from an operating system they just launched that everyone was starting to use. Now that's a fraction of their revenues.
Right.
They got cloud compute. They, created the Xbox. They've got all these other lines of businesses, services that they offer. So it's also a time to force people, whether it be those companies or yoga studios.
Right.
They have to innovate. We all have to. Financial advisors. We used to have clients, Isaac, that they always wanted to come into our office.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to meet with you in your office. We've got a 90-year-old client who's a book publisher. We've got several folks, they wanted to come in the office, and now they're like, yeah, let's do it Zoom.
Oh,
right?
wow. Yeah.
So, the one regret I have is that we didn't buy more Zoom stock than we have.
Yeah.
That would have worked
had you
out
been
well.
in Congress, you might have known about it ahead of time. Could have bought some.
Well, maybe so,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I saw a bunch of. I started buying stock for the first time when all this stuff hit, because you look at a cruise line and it's like, whatever, $7 a share.
Yeah.
Like you look at this 52-week high and it may have been at 50 something a share, and then so like the casinos are down, like all the sports betting are down, airlines are down, like everything was down. And that's when I was like, okay, that's why people were worried, because you look at every single industry was literally, except for like Amazon,
Right.
and Netflix. Like anything that you did out and about, like it was in the pits. And you hear the horror stories of people that lost. Knew someone who lost like 600,000, not you, but someone else 600,000. Someone who lost like 50,000 in the first couple of weeks out of their retirement, just gone like that.
Yeah.
How do we in the future, just like knowing what we know now, how can we prepare better for if something like this were to happen, that we can just minimize the loss?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. I think the first thing is to realize that we're not in control, right? I think we live in a society where we've got enough comforts, that we've created enough technology, that sometimes we have periods of illusion of control.
Right.
And this latest event proved that we don't have control. Having said that, there's some prudent things to do. Every business, we talk a lot about emergency funds for people. And so that's one thing, right? Have your emergency fund. If you're, some rules of thumb apply. If you're single with a very steady, stable job, you think with a high skill set, maybe you have 6 months. You can have more. If you're double income, maybe you have 12. I mean, it depends on the situation. That's why we meet with clients to figure that out. But some level of, also for businesses, I think a lot of businesses realized we need continuity plans in place. So it's planning. We're financial planners. That's what we do. So obviously we're biased. I think companies can have 3 to 6 months, right? We didn't count on a yoga studio, for example, getting closed down 3 months. Restaurants getting closed down 3 months. So those are some things. But I think the other thing, Isaac, and this is one thing where healing comes in, is even though we can make the greatest investments in the world if we can, it still doesn't matter if, one, you don't stay invested.
Right.
2, you don't invest in the first place. And part of staying invested, investing in the first place, is having a mindset that works. So we're doing a lot of work on behavioral finance. And I think if you and I are talking in 10 years from now, that's going to overwhelmingly be a topic that's top of mind.
You said behavioral finance?
Behavioral finance.
So what is that?
So it's a broad topic, but there's a couple of good people to follow on this topic. One's Dr. Shlomo Bernartzi out at UCLA. Peter Thaler, who won a Nobel Prize. They've kind of pioneered a lot of this thinking. But one is, how do you think about money?
Okay.
What is your relationship to it? Why are you investing? Why do you want money? How much do you want? But there's also some behavioral things that we can do during hard times, like automated investing. That's why 401ks work so well. That's why we believe in them so much. I would say the vast majority of people that come in our office to have a real chance to retire or to have financial independence have it because they had some sort of 401k type vehicle in place. Where it's done automatically. They don't really look at it every day. They don't see it. It works for them on their behalf in good times and bad. Keeping that behavior is important. So we might go into a company and we auto-enroll everyone.
Okay.
So, for example, a few years ago, we did 2 companies in Brentwood, Maryland Farms area at the same time, kind of medical tech companies, very similar employee base, 30 to 50 employees. We put 401k plans in both. Now, these people live in the same area, work in the same area. They see each other at Chick-fil-A on Saturday or at their kids' soccer games. So very similar profiles. One of them, we said to the CFO, we were like, hey, we want to do auto-enrollment, which means everybody's automatically in. They can log in the next day and take themselves right back out, but they're automatically invested. He's like, sounds great, let's do it. Another CFO said, I don't want to force them in. They're smart people. They'll probably enroll. It'll be fine.
Right.
3 years later, do you know how many were in the plan where you had to sign up?
0.
28%.
Oh.
So 28%. So roughly 1 in 4 people signed up for it.
Wow.
Do you know how many people were in the plan where they're automatically in? They were still in it 3 years later, had never unenrolled? 78.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So that's 50% more people. And that plan had like $1.2 million in it. The other plan had like $250,000. So that's $1 million extra dollars available for them in retirement. And there was only one difference. And that is one set got auto enrolled and one didn't. That's behavioral finance. That's an example. The other is, and this one's important, and I didn't mean to cut you off. If you had a question about that, we can come back to it for sure. But the other is, and where I'm spending a lot of time personally, is anxiety.
Okay.
And here's why that matters is I believe, and we have a lot of counselor clients we talk to about this, and that if the average level of anxiety in America was a 5 out of 10, say 30 years ago, it's been running the last couple of years at a 7 or 8. You can call it, you can blame social media or unrest or, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons you could maybe suppose, but people are anxious going into this epidemic, this pandemic that we've just had. And how does that relate to their money? Well, it's hard for them to make non-emotional decisions even more when you're in an anxious state. So, think of your most stressful times, right? And then having somebody come up and asking you to make a really wise, decision strategically about your future. It's very difficult to do it at the time, right?
Right.
It just is. Because our brains get into that fear mode from the caveman days, right? We're looking for the saber-toothed tiger. And when you're in the saber-toothed tiger mindset, when everything's a saber-toothed tiger, you don't make good financial decisions. And so that's why we're so adamant. We even send in our letter. We don't try to tell clients what to do, and we don't but what we did is encourage them, please limit your news consumption, no matter what channel you like, to 15 minutes a day, because it puts so many people in fear brain.
Right.
When you watch the one person that died of some rare disease and they're running it, all of a sudden you're looking for that rare disease.
Right.
That's the way the brain works. It's called the reticular activating system, right? And what the brain, once you tell it what to look for, it starts looking for it. It's why when you see a car, say you've got a white truck, brand new Chevy truck, and you start driving, all of a sudden you see brand new white Chevy trucks.
Right.
Because your brain is looking for it. So if you're looking for danger, if you're in that danger space, then you see your portfolio, your investments as in danger, rather than seeing the opportunity. You know what? I can buy some Zoom right now, right? I mean, that's going to blow it. And the people that can do that and stay in that calm state have an advantage. And so we want all our clients and everybody we know and ourselves to stay in that calm where the strategic mind is working, right? Where the frontal cortex, where the amygdala, where the fear brain is not in control.
Right.
If that makes sense at all.
Right. Yeah. So. I always think about, I actually dug and found it. I don't know if I have it with me still, but there was something that you had retweeted back when there was a government shutdown like a year and a half ago. And it's just one of those little moments that just stuck with me. And the tweet was something about how, so everyone's freaking out. I remember I can't remember what the thing was. It may have been the Affordable Care Act or what. There was something going on where Congress couldn't decide. They had a big government shutdown for a couple of weeks. And all the people that were public sector are freaking out because they're not going to get any money until that happens. Even my girlfriend's dad, he's an attorney, but he does a lot of work for the state in Arkansas. Well, that stopped his funding. Thankfully, he's very wise financially. So, he didn't have the cash flow, but he also wasn't like, I'm going to miss a meal now. But the tweet that you had retweeted was talking about how if by you missing one paycheck puts you in this pretty much financial tailspin, then... Which I've been like that in the past. I thought about myself in the past, high school, early college, is, man, I really was living paycheck to paycheck. But that's kind of looking through a keyhole at the rest of America that, everyone's figuring out the government shutdown, not because it's a government shutdown, we can't decide on this big bill. It was the fact that, well, now these people are going to miss a paycheck. And by them missing a paycheck, I mean, they're out. Like they're going to be evicted. They're not going to, their car's going to be repoed. They're not going to eat. They're going to starve to death. It's like, does that not freak anyone else out that by missing one paycheck, that's it? And that's one of those that's always kind of stuck with me. Like, all right, dig your well before you're thirsty. You know?
Right.
Man,
Yeah.
so
Great
when
point.
that does come. Okay. So last financial question. We'll move into the next thing. What is something that you wish you would have known? Like, let's say when you were, 23 years old, that you could have done differently or at least just done earlier?
Yeah. Well, there's probably a long laundry list at 23, but I will say the number one thing is compound interest. Just understanding that. Even if I probably at 23 understood that it was a concept.
Yeah.
But understanding its pure power, right? And just like I mentioned, just investing that 5 years I mentioned, my wife and I were early married. Having that work for you, your money becomes an employee for you. Mm-hmm. That doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay Social Security for your employee when it's your investments, right? I wish I had known that because that's available to everyone. I think one of the great lies that we tell ourselves or let others tell us or let Satan tells us or however you view it is always this, I can't afford to invest right now. Mm-hmm. Like we'll go into a company and it doesn't matter. We went into a company with a lot of highly paid engineers, right? These guys, most of them make six figures. Or we've got other companies where it's like a lumber yard, right? And they're making, very modest wages. It doesn't matter which one it is. If you go in there and ask someone, hey, can you afford to invest 15% of your income in your 401k? You know what they're going to say?
No.
Yeah. And the reason why is because when they left work that morning, their wife said, hey, by the way, I need to get new tires for the car today, and the kids have soccer practice, or, they want to go on vacation, or, we need, new eyeglasses or whatever, right?
Right.
There's always more, for most Americans, there's more demands on their funds than there is funds, at least in their mind. But what you find is, in real life, if you just invest first, at 20%, whatever the number is, and we like that number, for a lot of reasons that I could explain later, but let's say that it doesn't have to be that number, but let's say that's what it is. What you end up doing is when you get to the end of the month, instead of getting that new set of tires, when you go get your oil change, hey, by the way, you need some new tires or you need a air filter or whatever.
Right.
You go, you know what? It's the 24th. I can probably wait a week and a half and get that next month, right?
Yeah.
And then you just do that, but you already invested your 20%. And again, the way we know that is through the 401ks. We had a guy who started a company, had about 15 employees, and he said he accidentally underpaid his employee by 20% for like 3 months.
Oh, man.
And went and told his employee, said, we're going to make this up to you. We're going to give you all of it plus some amount.
Right.
I can't remember. The employee didn't know. And I think most of us don't know because when we get our paycheck, it's got all these things deducted, right? It's tax and this and that and healthcare and whatever. So we don't really know. And so understanding that, I wish the first day I'd started FX at FedEx, 20% coming out, never see it, and I never stop. And then you understand that power of compounding. So that's probably the top one, I would say, for everyone.
Yeah.
Think about college kids, Isaac, coming out. They've been, making, virtually nothing, right? Maybe a couple $1,000 a year or whatever it is in the summer. And now they get their first job, and let's say it's, $40,000 a year. I'm just going to make up a number, right? Why can't you take 8,000? You've been used to zero.
Yeah.
Why can't you go from 0 to 32? Because once you go from 0 to 40 and you get used to that 40, that 8,000 is really hard. But if you've been used to 0 and you go to 32, it's a lot easier.
Right.
So that's the concept.
That's a good concept. Easier said than done, for sure.
Easier said than done. Yeah.
I know. I want to say it was David Platt. I don't know if you've read any of his stuff, and it's either Radical or Follow Me, one of his books. And he's talking about America versus the first century church and just kind of our habits, and talking about how just much we live above our means.
Yeah.
And that's why, you see these NFL players, or Dennis Rodman had like $35 million. And then he's negative $1 million. Like, how do you blow through $36 million? How do you do that habits? And he was talking about, I think it was a Scottish pastor or theologian or somebody who he realized, okay, here's what I need to survive for a year. here's what my wife and I need. Here's what I need for the house, for the kids, for, even like a rainy day fund. Like, here's what it is. And anything above that number, we're giving away, because that's what we need to live, and be safe, be wise. And ministry took off. I think you did books. This is back in the day. But everything he did, I think he ended up, it got to the point where he was at like, what that number was maybe 20% of what he was even making. But he had those habits so deeply rooted that it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm making $1 million. I only need 60,000. I'm giving the rest of that away. It was, you're so used to only needing that 60,000, like you're not even counting the other money.
Right.
And because those habits were so established, which, I mean, goals me as a person and as a lot of Christians I talk to, and just people just in America, is America's telling you, it's like, no, you don't need to find that number and stay there. It's like you need to keep like the shark growing to the size of its tank. It's like whatever you're making is what you need to be spending. And then you see all the credit card debt and all. I mean, you know a lot more than I do about it. But that's always kind of stuck with me too, is like, it's not our money.
Right.
Think about the definition of steward is someone who manages the master stuff. And it's not ours.
That's
so
right.
that's just the 60,000 we need. I mean, the rest isn't ours to begin with. Why is it so hard to give away? So, how are you using money? Again, I still want to help people. How are you using it as your ministry, as your means to change the world?
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. Great question. And I'm glad you brought that up about the giving, because if I could, if someone just said, hey, everything you've learned, everything you've seen in 20 years, in 12 doing this exactly, but, what would you tell people to do? What's your prescription? What we find with, the people that are the happiest and the wealthiest, if you get have a scoring system, what the successful people from those regards do, is they give first with their first dollar. They give right off the top, and they give it first. And then they save and invest, including investing in themselves. That could be learning new skills, going to conferences, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they pay the mortgage. Then they pay the light bill. Then they pay the cell phone, ever-increasing cell phone bill.
Yeah.
Right? Then they pay all those things. What broke people do is exactly the opposite. Broke people, they pay their, utility bills, their mortgage first, utility bills, et cetera, et cetera. They get to the end of the month and go, well, maybe I'll invest in my 401k. And by the way, I might have a 20 left to throw in the proverbial offering plate, right?
Yeah.
Or to give to a ministry. But wealthy people do the exact opposite. And what that does is, by giving first, what we've seen is it orders your life. And I don't know what that percentage is. For a lot of people, it's 10%. Some people, there's some biblical references to that. I would say, think about it, pray about it, whatever you're comfortable with. But the point is, give first. One, it puts you in that mindset. And you get rewards. Like, I have never personally or met anybody that gave regularly first that said, you know what, I'm going to stop doing that. That has been a terrible policy for me. That has not worked out well. I mean, I've never met anyone. Right. There are so many rewards that you get, and you're not doing it to get rewards. That's the beautiful thing. You're just doing it out of obedience and out of but worlds open up when you start doing that. We didn't do that. That's another thing we didn't do early in our life, our married life, my wife and I, and that we help clients, is like, I can't tell you how much to give. I can't force you to give. Right. It's not for, look at me, look how great of a person I am. You will get so many intrinsic rewards. But what it also does is those ministries are now beneficiaries, and that propagates through your local communities.
That's
right?
true. Yeah, very
true. When you give the food bank, or the there's a ministry here that helps foster children get adjusted to their new school. What a concept is that? You've helped out your community, and it propagates and makes everyone around you better. Mm-hmm. So that's a great point, and that's where we focus, and that's where we believe we help the community be better, because people will listen to us, right? They're hiring you to be your financial planner and advisor. They may not do everything we say. It's we're not their dad, and we're not trying to be their dad. But when we say, hey, you will get intrinsic benefit from this, you will love that you're doing it, and you'll feel great about it, and it'll work out well for you. And they start doing it, you're like, you know what, you're right. Right. It's been amazing. I had a client that got a huge contract because he started giving to this one particular firm, nonprofit, and met this guy that ran this other firm while they were at an event. He gets a new, it's just, that's the way our economy, and I believe God designed it to work, is give first.
Right.
believe first. Giving is an act of belief.
Right.
It's an act of faith. If you never think you're going to get another dime in your life, you're not going to give it. If you've got one loaf of bread and you think that's the only loaf of bread you're ever going to give, it's going to be hard for you to give a couple of pieces away.
Right.
But if you think you're going to be baking a lot more bread, that God has way more bread for you in the future, it's a lot easier.
That's true.
To
I thought
give.
about that.
So it builds your own faith to give. So,
well, last form of giving, you talked about it. I didn't know about this till we were emailing. How you and your wife are looking at starting a healing ministry, or you have started it, or what's going on with that?
Yeah. Thanks for asking about that. It's, this actually started before the COVID epidemic even came up. We were just looking around and just saw how many people were struggling with health issues and anxiety. And when you read the Great Commission in the Bible, at the end, Jesus is leaving his disciples, and he basically tells them to do three things, right? One is feed my sheep, love my people, right? To tell them about me. It's called the Great Commission, and heal them in my name. And, we've done a little bit of the first two, right?
Yeah.
Loving others, tried at least. Probably not always been as successful as we'd like to be at that.
Yeah, you and me both.
The second is telling people. We've done a little bit about that. Probably not as much. Healing? I haven't really done much on that front, right? Healing in my name. What can we do? And so we started looking around and we started praying about, there's some great churches in our area. Should we start a church? My wife owns a yoga studio. She would see how many people got literally healed coming to there. People would say, my back feels better than it's been in years. Or I've got so much peace. I spent an hour and a half meditating and just relaxing my mind and I feel so much better. I just feel better. We thought, how can we be more prescriptive about that? How can we help people that? Praying more, right? Yeah. The miracles that we see in the Bible, right, were born out of prayer and fasting. So it's interesting. We convened a group at our house to talk about this and said, should we start a church? Should we start a nonprofit? Should we just all go out and minister? And we actually had them write down. We all sat around and said, anonymously wrote down, if Jesus was here, if best we can, visualize that, and what would he tell us to do? And healing was a big part of that, helping people heal, helping people who are sick, helping,
Right.
And so we were really focused on that. And so now what we are doing is we've organized a couple of initiatives to get people together that are in some form of healing ministry and get them in community. And we may also, we were doing the yoga ministry. We're doing some retreats that are focused on healing where we're going to bring in everyone from chiropractors to pastors to, people are going to get prayed over. People are going to get practical healing tips. They may get adjustments. Who knows where this is going to go, but it's all about actively going, how can we bring healing to people's lives? The other big piece of it is we've launched a course, or I'm about to launch it. Final touches on it.
Sure.
A course on anxiety, the ultimate guide to ending anxiety. I don't know if you know people that have had panic attacks.
Yeah,
they have trouble sleeping. They've got all these physical ailments, and the first thing I would say to everyone, go to your doctor, get checked out, see if you have, make sure you don't have a cancer or, some sort of, treatable condition. But for a lot of people, they have just a heavy anxiety load.
Sure.
And once your brain gets in that loop, it's very hard for some people to get out of that. And we now have a ministry, or, we're a whole course that's going to be offered through this ministry that's available, that works, that's been proven. I know a lot of people have done it. I've done it myself, gotten tremendous relief, tremendous healing from it. Very practical things that you do, but you have to do that. You have to do them.
Yeah, right.
But if you do, you will get healing. You will get actual physical symptom healing.
Wow.
Sleep healing, rest, migraines go away. This is not some hokey, it's backed by science. It's based on the way the brain works. Neuroplasticity, a concept. You're retraining your brain to think about things and release things that naturally stress the brain out. And it's your brain's way of saying, hey, I'm stressed out here. And so that's a part of this healing ministry too. So we're very, very excited about it. And we think it's going to help clients. We think it's going to help the community. And so we're putting the finishing touches on that right now.
And when will that course be available, and where can people find it?
Yeah, great questions, and I'm adjusting this
Good, yeah.
to better answer so people can hear. it'll be an online course. We know it's going to be an online offering. We don't know whether we're going to have a separate website yet, or it's going to be through our existing websites yet. So more to come on that. I'll be sure to let you know.
Keep in touch. I'll put it out.
But we hope that's out by October 1st is the goal.
Okay.
And so that's our kind of commitment. I'm working furiously on. Matter of fact, my wife told me this morning, is like, how we doing on getting that thing out? It's like accountability while we're, having breakfast. So anyway.
Well, also, okay. Is there anything that we did not get to touch on you want to cover before we wrap up? I know you did some homework, you said.
Yeah. Just a couple of more things about kind of in the vein of healing and what are you reading and what can people do? This is just like a lightning round, right? The way I view this is I've humbly learned a few things that have helped me and others. And I know other people have the same. And so the other thing we're considering doing, we haven't gotten finalized around, is starting a group that's called, I Know Something You Don't Know. Mm-hmm. Which is, you probably know some things that would really help me that I have no idea and I have the same. So one example is, I know how to keep kids from needing eyeglasses. I know how to help their eyes heal so they don't need contacts and glasses anymore. 9 out of 10 kids, right? That sounds really weird. You're like, that sounds so bizarre. How did you figure that out? A wise person in our life said, hey, did you know this? I noticed your kid's got glasses. Uh-huh. My middle daughter is the first 16-year-old, first person to make it to her sophomore year in high school in generations without needing contacts or glasses. Huh. My son doesn't need them. My oldest daughter, I told her, sorry, didn't learn about this soon enough. She needs them, but only a little bit because we discovered it. So that's a simple healing, right? What if you didn't have to go to the eye doctor anymore, right? We love eye doctors, nice people, right? But what if you didn't have to go there all the time to get eyeglasses? What if your eyes weren't tired at night from wearing contacts? That's a small example. Who knew that existed? It turns out there are hundreds of thousands of people that know that you don't have to have eyeglasses. You can reverse it for kids.
Oh, really?
Because they're still growing. So what if your kids got eyeglasses and don't need them anymore? So that's a small example of something I know that maybe others don't. But there are other people that know things I don't. And so we want to create a forum that gets those things out there. Another small thing is, what are you reading? 5 Love Languages. Have you read that?
No, I've not. I think I've done the test a couple times.
Have you really? Yeah. What are you? What's your...
I don't even remember. It's been a couple of years now.
Go take that if you want to. It's great. So it could probably saved our marriage.
Really?
And but just real quickly, what the 5 languages are is you express. This is how you give and receive love the best. And so if we're told to love our neighbor, in my personal opinion, it's helpful to know these love languages. It's been a game changer. I'm not judging anyone who doesn't. I'm just saying it's been super helpful. Physical touch, way to show love. Mm-hmm. Gift giving, way to show love. Acts of service, washing someone's car, cleaning their kitchen for them, whatever. Act of service. Quality time, spending time with them. All these are love languages, and people have different things. Words of affirmation is the 5th one.
Right.
Isaac, you're the greatest podcaster that ever lived, right? Or, Isaac, I love your architectural ideas, or, whatever. That makes you feel good if you're a words of affirmation person. Most people have 1 or 2 primary.
Right.
So, for example, what happened when my wife and I got married is I am quality time and physical touch, right? And quality time, I would just plan these elaborate dates. Picnics, 3 hours. I'd make all the sandwiches, all this stuff. We'd go out, beautiful park. Never told my wife she was beautiful. Never told her I loved her. Never told her what a stunning mind she had. None of that.
Yeah.
She, meanwhile, told me, oh, you're amazing. You're handsome. You're funny. I love you. I love her. You just give me all these, verbal affirmation because that's what she likes, what she needs. I wasn't giving her any. So what was happening is, and then she didn't want to go on the dates with me. So I'm planning.
But I'm handsome and funny.
I'm handsome and funny and planning these elaborate dates with the problem, right? And we were missing each other.
Uh-huh.
Once we figured that out, saved our marriage. It's helped us with our children. We're not perfect parents, by the way. I mean, there's plenty of people around that can say, yeah, I saw him on the soccer field one day. But, I'm just saying in general, it's hugely helpful to know how to love. It's one thing to say love your neighbor. What if you knew how to love your neighbor? So that's a book that I recommend for anyone. So I wanted to throw that there. Yeah, I know you like
Five Love Languages.
Five Love Languages, great one. Other classics are You Think and Grow Rich, How to Influence People. Love all those. I'm currently reading a book by Raymond Presson, who I know very well, Dr. Presson. Awesome. It's called When Will My Life Not Suck?
Oh wow,
It's a really
that's a title.
great one.
Yeah,
He wrote it with his son. He's a therapist, a great, unbelievable therapist. Great read. So anyway,
okay.
wanted to throw those out there because I really think they help. And if everyone could read those, I think they'd be happy. World would be a better place. They'd be happy they did. So
Hopefully, I need to read them next. So we'll see. Maybe I'll look back at this podcast like, man, yeah, that was the pivot right there.
it doesn't make all your problems go away, but
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt for
Sure.
sure. So.
Well, cool. Anything else? Anything final you want to add before we head out?
No, I just appreciate you having me on. It's been great.
Man,
Thanks.
well, I appreciate you coming on. Glad we can make it work. Hopefully, right in time for your next meeting.
Yeah.
So, again, it'll be up soon. Be up very soon. And how can people keep up with you or website and course? Is there anywhere they can follow you or stay updated? Email list, anything like that?
Yeah. So, efinancialalliance.com is where we post blogs. If they want to know about our thoughts on markets and that sort of thing. Twitter. I'll be using that to post when this course comes out. Mitch is Green,
Mitch is Green.
Mitch is Green. You can find us out there for the studio, Abundant Yoga. If you want to know when classes
Abundant
are, healing,
Yoga?
Abundant Yoga.
Okay.
You can find it on Instagram. Is a great place to find them out. They're much better at social media on that end. So any of those are good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks again for coming on. And everyone, thanks you for listening. It was a long one, but it was a good one. Hope it's helpful. And we will see you guys on the other side.